The emergency alarm echoed through the Galactic Council chamber. Representatives from 40 different species rushed to their seats. Something terrible was happening, and nobody knew how to stop it. Admiral Cravath stood at the center platform. His blue skin looked darker than usual. He was worried. The tall Zentari warrior pressed a button, and holographic images filled the room. 3 more systems have gone silent, he announced. That makes 15 in 2 months. The council members whispered among themselves. 15 systems meant millions of beings. Ships, stations, entire colonies, all gone quiet. No distress calls. No survivors found. Just silence. Cravath showed surveillance footage. It displayed massive warships, the kind that could destroy planets. They were firing at something. The recording showed confusion and panic. Then the video cut to static. Before each attack ends, we receive 1 transmission, Cravath continued. He played an audio file. A single word came through in an unknown language. Wraith. A council member from the Telvar Empire stood up. What is a wraith? Which species does it belong to? We don't know, Cravath admitted. The ship's signature matches nothing in our database. The flight patterns are impossible according to our physics. The technology is... We have no explanation. Another representative asked, Is this an invasion force? That's the strange part, Cravath said. He pulled up more data. Wraith only attacks criminals, pirates, slavers, illegal weapons dealers. This entity has destroyed 12 major pirate fleets. It freed for slave colonies. It stopped 3 genocides. The room fell silent. A vigilante. Someone operating outside the law, but fighting for good. A young analyst named Velrix raised his hand nervously. He was new to the council, barely passed his training. Admiral, may I share something? Cravath nodded. Velrix approached the main display with shaking hands. He pulled up attack reports. I studied every Wraith encounter carefully, Velrix explained. Look at the damage patterns. Wraith only destroys weapons and engines. Life support systems are always left intact. Escape pods are never targeted. In fact, he showed another file. Your Wraith actually transmitted medical coordinates to wounded enemies after defeating them. The council members leaned forward. Interested now. This isn't just skill, Velrix continued. This is someone with a code. Someone who values life, even enemy life. Someone who fights with honor. Counselor Mira, an elderly diplomat known for her wisdom, spoke softly. Perhaps we should try to contact this Wraith. Offer alliance instead of opposition. Before anyone could respond, another alarm sounded. An emergency transmission came through. Everyone watched as a terrifying figure appeared on the screen. Vex, Lord of the Korthax Syndicate, the most dangerous criminal in known space. His scarred face smiled cruelly. Greetings, Council, Vex said mockingly. I have taken a civilian transport ship, the Luminous Hope. 300 innocent beings are my prisoners. Men, women, children from 7 different species. Council chamber erupted in shouts of anger. Vex raised his hand for silence. I have a simple demand. This Wraith, who has been destroying my operations, I want this ghost to surrender. Come to the Korthax fortress system. Alone, unarmed, you have 48 hours, and if Wraith doesn't come... Admiral Cravath asked, though he already knew the answer. Then I will execute all 300 prisoners, slowly, and I will broadcast it across every system in the galaxy. Vex's smile widened. I'm offering 50 million credits to anyone who brings me Wraith's head. This ghost has haunted the underworld long enough. Time to see if heroes are real or just stories. The transmission ended. The council chamber exploded with discussion. Everyone talked at once. Some demanded they mobilize military forces. Others said negotiation was the only path. A few suggested sacrificing the hostages to avoid encouraging more kidnappings. Admiral Cravath silenced them all. We will send our fastest fleet immediately. But even at maximum speed, we're 4 days away. Those hostages don't have for days. Counselor Mira looked at the empty space where Vex's transmission had been. The question is not what we will do. The question is, What will Wraith do? No single pilot can penetrate the Korthax fortress, a military strategist said. Vex has 60 warships and orbital defense platforms. It's mathematically impossible. Wraith would be committing suicide. Velrix, the young analyst, spoke quietly. Based on Wraith's pattern of behavior, this pilot always protects the innocent. Always. That's the one constant in every engagement. Then Wraith will die, the strategist said flatly. You cannot overcome those odds with skill alone. Krevath pulled up a star map, showing the Korthax system. It was a fortress indeed. Layer upon layer of defenses. Sensor grids that could detect a single fighter from millions of miles away. Weapons powerful enough to shatter moons. Whoever this Wraith is, Krevath said slowly, they would have to be either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish to answer this challenge. Counselor Myra stood and walked to the window overlooking space. Stars glittered in the darkness. Or perhaps, she said softly, Wraith understands something we have forgotten. That the measure of a person is not their power, but what they're willing to sacrifice for others. The council began preparing for the worst. They mobilized their fleet. They attempted diplomatic channels with the Korthax syndicate. They calculated rescue scenarios, each one more unlikely than the last. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the broadcast spread. Billions watched the countdown. 48 hours until 300 innocent beings died. 48 hours to see if the mysterious Wraith was real or just another story. On the captured transport ship, Luminous Hope, a young Telvari girl asked her father, will the hero come? Her father held her close and lied. Yes, sweetheart. Heroes always come. But in his heart, he wondered if heroes existed at all. Or if his daughter would learn the cruelest lesson that in the real galaxy, good people died while evil people won. The countdown began 40-8. Hours 40-7. Hours and 59. Minutes 47 hours and 58 minutes. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, a single ship received the broadcast. A small vessel with strange markings from a planet most species barely knew existed. Inside, the pilot watched the hostages' faces. Watched the fear. Watched the hope dying in their eyes. The pilot's hands moved across the controls, setting a course for the Korthax fortress system, toward impossible odds, toward certain death, toward 300 strangers who needed someone to stand for them. The ship's engines hummed to life, and in the darkness, the ghost began to move. Part 2. The Price of Conscience. The transport ship Luminous Hope floated helplessly in space. Surrounded by the Korthax Syndicate's fortress, explosive devices covered its hull like deadly flowers. One wrong move, one wrong signal, 300 innocent lives would end in fire. Inside the ship, fear hung in the air like a physical thing. Jarek held his daughter Mira close. She was only 7 years old, too young to understand why bad people existed. She pressed her face against his chest. Papa, I'm scared, she whispered. I know, little star. I know. Yorick stroked her hair, trying to stay calm, even though his own heart was racing. Around them, other families huddled together. Some prayed. Some cried. Some just stared at nothing, waiting for death. An elderly merchant named Korvac sat nearby. He had lived 80 years, seen many things, survived many dangers. But now he looked tired. No one is coming, he said quietly. Why would anyone trade their life for strangers? Maybe heroes are real, a young student named Tessa said. Though her voice shook with doubt, Korvac shook his head sadly. Heroes are stories we tell children. In the real galaxy, people look after themselves. Always have. Always will. On the bridge of his command ship, Syndicate Lord Vex watched the countdown with satisfaction. 24 hours remained. His ship was the largest in his fleet, a massive destroyer that had crushed countless enemies. Any sign of this wraith? He asked his sensor officer. Nothing, my lord. No ships approaching. No unusual signals. Vex smiled, showing sharp teeth. Good. This ghost will not come. And when the hostages die, the galaxy will see that heroes are myths. Fear is the only real power. He activated the broadcast again, making sure every system in the galaxy could watch. 18 hours remain. I will prove that your so-called hero is a coward. To encourage Wraith's appearance, I will now execute one hostage every hour. Across the galaxy, billions watched in horror as Vex's soldiers dragged a merchant from the transport ship. The man begged for his life. They ignored his pleas. The execution was broadcast everywhere. Children saw it. Families saw it. The Galactic Council saw it and could do nothing. "Monster," Admiral Cravath whispered, slamming his fist on the console. "Our fleet is still 3 days away. We're helpless." Counselor Mira closed her eyes. "Where are you, Wraith? Will you let innocent people die?" 1 hour passed. Another hostage died. The galaxy watched and learned that evil could act while good could only watch. 2 hours. 3 hours. For hours. The executions continued. Parents covered their children's eyes. The council sent desperate diplomatic messages that Vex ignored. The countdown continued its terrible march toward zero inside the luminous hope. Little Myra asked her father again, "Is the hero coming?" Yarek couldn't lie anymore. "I don't know, sweetheart. I hope so. I really hope so." But hope was dying with each execution. The hostages could hear the screams from outside. They knew their turn would come eventually. They held each other and waited for the end. Then, with only 3 hours remaining on the countdown, something impossible happened. Every sensor in the Korthax Fortress system went completely crazy. Alarms screamed. Display screens showed impossible readings. Vex shouted at his officers. "Sir, we're detecting multiple quantum signatures. 47 different targets, all showing as the officer's voice cracked with disbelief. All showing as Wraith's ship's signature. That's impossible. Find the real one." "We can't. They're appearing and disappearing across the entire system. We can't lock weapons on any of them." Vex's command center descended into chaos. His 60 warships scrambled to respond, but they couldn't identify which target was real. The quantum signatures danced across space like ghosts, appearing here, vanishing there, possible to track or target. Then every communication channel in the system activated at once. A voice cut through female, calm, speaking with an accent that most species didn't recognize. 3 simple words. "I'm right here." Happen next would be studied in military academies for generations. Wraith's ship materialized from quantum space directly in the middle of the Korthax fleet. It was small, maybe 1/10 the size of Vex's smallest fighter. But it moved like nothing they had ever seen. It wasn't just fast. It was liquid. It flowed through space like water through fingers. When 3 warships fired their weapons, Wraith wasn't where their targeting computers said it should be. The ships hit each other instead. "Target that ship," Vex screamed. But Wraith was already gone, reappearing behind another group of vessels. More weapons fired. More ships hit their own allies because Wraith moved in ways physics said were impossible. A Korthox tactical officer watched his screen with growing terror. "Sir, the pilot isn't reacting to our attacks. They're anticipating them. They know what we're going to do before we do it." Indeed, Wraith moved through the battlefield like someone reading a script. Every maneuver perfectly countered what the Korthax forces attempted. It was like watching someone play a game they had already won in another timeline. Wraith didn't destroy ships. Instead, precise weapons fired disabled engines and power systems. Within 7 minutes, 15 Korthax vessels floated helplessly, their crews alive but their ships useless. "She's hacking our communications," another officer reported. "She's feeding false data into our targeting systems. Our ships are locking onto each other instead of the target." Vex watched his perfect trap crumble. His face turned dark with rage. "All ships, fire on the transport. If I can't win, nobody wins." But Wraith was already there. The small ship positioned itself between the Korthax fleet and the luminous hope. Shields glowing bright. Weapons fire that should have destroyed the transport hit Wraith's shields instead. Then Wraith did something nobody expected. She hacked into the Korthax military network and broadcast on all channels, not to threaten, but to teach. "Watch," Wraith's voice said calmly. "This is how you disable quantum-locked explosives without triggering them." On every Korthax ship's screen, the crew watched as Wraith's instruments showed the exact frequency and sequence needed to safely deactivate the bombs attached to the transport. It was a lesson in advanced demolition, given in the middle of a battle. Within 42 seconds, all explosive devices on the Luminous Hope went dark. That should take hours. Vex's demolition expert gasped. The calculations alone. Now watch. Wraith continued. As I show you how to identify corrupted orders from legitimate ones, she transmitted data packets directly to every Korthax crew member's personal screen. The files contained evidence videos, financial records, communication logs. They showed Vex's crimes in detail. How he had murdered his own soldiers when they questioned orders. How he had stolen profits meant for crew families. How he had left entire crews to die when retreat was more profitable than rescue. One by one, the Korthax soldiers looked at their screens. They saw the truth about the man they served. They saw his betrayals, his lies, his complete disregard for their lives. In the command center of one Korthax warship, the captain looked at his crew. They looked back at him. Without a word, they all understood. The captain opened a channel to the fleet. "This is Captain Ryan of the Dark Star. I will not follow Vex's orders anymore. Who's with me?" 3 ships immediately answered. Then 5 more. Then 10. Vex watched his fleet turn against him. "Traitors. I'll kill you all." But his threats meant nothing now. Wraith had done something more powerful than destroying his ships. She had destroyed his authority. She had shown his people who he really was. 15 Korthax vessels, the one still under Vex's control, formed a suicide formation. They charged directly at Wraith, prepared to ram her ship if necessary. Inside the Luminous Hope, the hostages watched through portholes. Little Mira pressed her face against the glass. "Papa, look! The hero is real." Yarek watched the small ship with strange markings dodge and weave through impossible attacks. He saw courage in physical form. He saw someone who came alone to face an army because it was the right thing to do. Tears ran down his face. Yes, little star, heroes are real. We're watching one right now. Part 3. The Legend Unmasked ship danced through the suicide formation like a leaf in the wind. 15 Korthax vessels tried to crush her between them, but she flowed through gaps that shouldn't exist. Her movements were so precise, so perfectly timed, that she made impossible look easy. On Vex's command ship, his tactical officer shook his head in disbelief. "Sir, her computer is predicting our movements 3 steps ahead. It's like she knows what we're going to do before we decide." Vex slammed his fist on the console. "She's just one pilot. One ship? How is this possible?" But it wasn't just the ship. It was the person flying it. Wraith turned combat into art. Every barrel roll had purpose. Every acceleration perfectly timed. Every evasive maneuver positioned her exactly where she needed to be for the next move, in 17 minutes total. 38 Korthax vessels floated dead in space, disarmed and disabled. Not destroyed. Not a single crew member killed. Just ships turned into expensive pieces of scrap that couldn't hurt anyone. "She could have killed us all," Captain Ryan said quietly on his bridge. "But she chose mercy, even for those who wanted to kill her." Wraith's ship glided toward the Luminous Hope. The transport sensors picked up strange markings on the small vessel. Letters in a language most species had never seen. Words that translated roughly to Earth Naval Fighter, call sign, Wraith. The word spread quickly through the Korthax fleet. That backwater planet? Those primitive humans who barely had quantum drives? One of them did this? Wraith's voice came through again, speaking to the hostages directly. "This is Wraith to Luminous Hope. You're safe now. I'm sending docking codes. Prepare for escort to Council Space." Inside the transport, people cried with relief. They hugged each other. They laughed and sobbed at the same time. Little Mira jumped up and down. The hero came. Papa the hero came. Yarrick wiped his eyes. Yes, sweetheart, and we will never forget this day. But Vex wasn't finished. Defeat had driven him mad with rage. His reputation was destroyed. His fleet was broken. His empire was crumbling. If he couldn't win, he would take everyone with him. Override all safeties, he ordered his crew. Overload the reactor. We'll detonate ourselves, and take that ghost with us. His officers stared at him. Sir, that will kill everyone. Including us? Do it. Vex screamed. That's an order. But his crew had seen the evidence Wraith provided. They had seen what kind of leader Vex really was. The senior officer drew his weapon and pointed it at Vex. No, my lord. We won't die for your pride. Act lunged for the manual detonation controls. His hand reached the switch and nothing happened. The console was dead. He frantically pressed buttons, but the entire system was locked out. Wraith's voice came through, calm and patient. I disabled your self-destruct the moment I entered the system. Did you really think I'd let you hurt more innocent people? Vex fell to his knees, his empire and reputation destroyed in less than 20 minutes. Around him, his former soldiers put him in restraints. Captain Rhine opened a channel. Wraith, this is Captain Rhine. We want to thank you. You showed us what we had become. Some of us want to be better. Will you help us? There was a pause. Then Wraith responded. The fact that you're asking that question means you've already started. Turn yourselves in to the council. Face justice. Then rebuild your lives the right way, Rhine promised. May I ask, who are you? How did you become this? Another pause. Longer this time? Finally, Wraith answered. Just someone who believes the strong should protect the weak. Someone who learned that power without honor is just tyranny with better weapons. As council ships began arriving to secure the system, Admiral Krevet's fleet dropped out of quantum space. They were 2 days early, pushing their engines beyond safe limits to get there faster. But they arrived to find the battle already over. Krevet stared at his scanners in amazement. By the ancestors. One pilot did all this? His sensor officer nodded. Sir, I'm detecting Wraith's ship. It's escorting the luminous Hope to safety. Should we intercept? No, Krevet said slowly. But open a channel. I want to speak with this pilot. The communication line opened. This is Admiral Krevet of the Galactic Council. Wraith, we owe you a debt we can never repay. 300 lives saved. A criminal empire broken. You've done what our entire fleet couldn't do. Please, identify yourself. Let us thank you, properly. Static filled the line for a moment. Then Wraith's voice came through, and for the first time there was emotion in it. Something tired, something sad. No thanks needed, Admiral. I didn't do this for recognition. I did it because it was right. At least tell us where you're from, Krevet insisted. We saw Earth markings on your ship. Are you human? Yes, Wraith said simply. But humans don't have this technology. Your ship's capabilities are decades beyond anything Earth has produced. How I modified it, Wraith interrupted. Took a basic fighter and rebuilt it piece by piece. Scavenged tech from a dozen species. Learned from everyone I met. When you care enough about a mission, you find ways to improve. Elrix, the young analyst, leaned forward excitedly. Wraith, I've studied all your previous missions. You only attack those who prey on the weak. You never kill unless there's no other choice. You risk your life for strangers. Why? What drives you? The longest pause yet. When Wraith finally spoke, her voice was quiet. Because someone has to. Because I've seen what happens when good people do nothing. Because every life matters, even if those lives are strangers. That philosophy, Counselor Mira said softly, joining the conversation. That's very human of you. Your people have many stories about individuals standing against impossible odds. But stories and reality are different things. You could have died today. But I didn't, Wraith replied. And 300 people got to go home. That's what matters. The transport captain, a Telvari named Jarek, activated his own communication system. Wraith. This is Captain Jarek of the Luminous Hope. I'm a retired military officer. I've seen thousands of pilots in my career. I've never seen anything like you. You're too kind, Captain. No, I'm honest, Jarek continued. You didn't just save us. You showed restraint, mercy, honor. You fought not to kill, but to protect. Those are values my people hold sacred. I would be honored to know the name of the person who exemplifies them so perfectly. Another pause. Then very quietly, some things are better left as mysteries, Captain. The call sign matters more than the name. Let people remember Wraith as an idea, not a person. Ideas inspire. People disappoint. Not this person. Little Mira's voice suddenly came through. Somehow, she had gotten to the transport's communication panel. You're my hero. You're everyone's hero. For the first time, warmth entered Wraith's voice. What's your name, little one? Mira? I'm 7 years old, and when I grow up, I want to be just like you. A sound came through the channel. Was Wraith laughing or crying? Maybe both. Then be brave, Mira. Be kind. Stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. That's all being a hero really means.
I will.
I promise. Captain Jarek's sensors caught a brief anomaly in Wraith's ship's signature. For just a moment, the stealth systems flickered. His screen showed something impossible. Ship barely larger than a standard fighter. Heavily modified, held together with repairs from a dozen different technologies. And through a clear section of the cockpit, a brief glimpse of the pilot, human, female, young, maybe late 20s. Short, dark hair. Eyes that had seen too much pain but refused to look away from it. And written beneath the cockpit canopy, in simple Earth letters, Death before dishonor. Wraith Admiral Cravath said urgently, Please, join us. Work with the Council officially. We need people like you. The Council has millions of good people, Admiral. You don't need me. But there are places in the galaxy where the Council's ships can't reach. Small colonies. Forgotten outposts. People who slip through the cracks. That's where I'm needed. You can't protect the entire galaxy alone, Cravath protested. No, Wraith agreed, but I can protect the small corner of it that I'm in right now. Then move to the next corner, and the next. One person at a time. That's how you change things. Her ship began moving away, preparing to quantum jump. Wait, Velrix called out. Will we see you again? When innocent people need help and no one else is coming? Yes, you'll see Wraith again. You'll always see Wraith when darkness needs a light. With that, she vanished into quantum space, leaving behind 300 saved lives, dozens of reformed criminals, and an entire galaxy that suddenly believed in heroes again. Part 4. The past returns, in the weeks following the Korthax incident. The galaxy couldn't stop talking about Wraith. News channels analyzed her tactics. Children played games pretending to be the mysterious pilot. Artists created images of her ship, though none knew exactly what she looked like. Admiral Cravath became obsessed with understanding her. In his office, surrounded by holographic displays, he studied every recorded Wraith engagement. 2 years of data. 57 confirmed missions. Hundreds of lives saved. Computer, show me patterns, he commanded. The AI processed the information and displayed a map. Red dots showed where Wraith had appeared. Each marked a place where the weak needed protecting. Slave colonies, pirate attacks, corrupt officials oppressing civilians. Natural disasters where help arrived too slowly. She goes where the vulnerable are, Cravath said to himself. Not where the glory is. Not where the rewards are. Where people actually need her. Rix entered the office carrying data tablets. The young analyst looked tired but excited. Admiral, I've been researching human culture. I think I understand what drives her. Show me, Cravath said. Velrix activated a presentation. Images of Earth appeared, a blue and green planet, beautiful but fragile. Humans are newcomers to galactic civilization. Most species don't take them seriously. Primitive technology, no major colonies. But their stories. He showed recordings of human entertainment. Movies about individuals standing against overwhelming odds. Books about ordinary people becoming heroes. Legends passed down through generations about warriors who protected others. Look at this military tradition, Velrix continued. They call them special forces. Soldiers trained to operate alone behind enemy lines. To be ghosts. They have a saying, death before dishonor. Cravath leaned forward. Those words were written on Wraith's ship. Captain Jarek saw them. Exactly. And look at their moral framework. Humans have this concept they call the right thing. Not legal. Not profitable. Not safe. Just right. They value it above their own survival sometimes. That's illogical, Cravath said, but without conviction. He had seen Wraith risk everything for strangers. Logic couldn't explain that. To us, maybe Velrix agreed, but to humans, it's their greatest strength. They believe one person can make a difference. They teach their children that heroes are real because heroes must be real. Without that belief, what's the point of anything? Cravath studied the data in silence. Finally, he spoke quietly. She's dangerous. Velrix looked shocked. Sir, she's safe, not dangerous to us, Cravath interrupted. Dangerous to the old ways. To the idea that might makes right, that the strong rule and the weak suffer. She's proving that courage and honor matter more than firepower. That's a dangerous idea for people who rely on fear. As if to prove his point, new alerts began flashing on Cravath's console. Intelligence reports from the border regions. A new threat was rising. The Zaraxis Collective. They were brutal conquerors who had remained quiet for years, building their strength. Their War Master Thex was known for his cruelty and tactical genius. Unlike the disorganized Korthax Syndicate, the Zaraxis were disciplined, organized, deadly, and they had been studying WRAI 8 in his war room. Dex reviewed the same data Cravath had examined, but where Cravath saw inspiration, Dex saw weakness. She's skilled, Dex admitted to his officers. But she relies on surprise, on enemies who panic, on criminals who lack discipline. He pointed to tactical analyses on the screen. Her ship is fast, but fragile. Her weapons are precise, but weak. She wins through perfect execution. But perfection is brittle. One mistake, and she dies. His second-in-command asked, "What do you propose, War Master?" Dex smiled coldly. Humans have an emotional weakness. I've studied their broadcasts. They cannot abandon those in need. It's not just honor, it's a compulsion. They will sacrifice themselves for strangers without hesitation. You want to trap her? Better, I want to break her. Dex activated a star map. Here, the Mercy Station. A medical facility in neutral space. Civilian doctors treating patients from all species. Completely defenseless. Understanding dawned on his officers' faces. You'll attack it. And she'll come, Dex finished. But this time, we'll be ready. I've designed new weapons specifically to counter her tactics. Quantum disruption fields to prevent her evasive maneuvers. Prediction algorithms based on her previous patterns. And most importantly, patience. She wins quickly. We'll force a long battle. Make her make mistakes. Within days, Zarax's forces attacked Mercy Station. The assault was vicious. They didn't just attack. They made sure survivors could send distress calls. They wanted the galaxy to watch. Thousands of patients and doctors were trapped. The station's shields were failing. Within hours, everyone would die. Council ships raced to respond, but they were too far away. Admiral Cravath watched helplessly as another impossible situation developed. She'll come, he said with certainty, and Dex knows it. He was right. WRAITH appeared within an hour. Her ship dropped from quantum space and immediately began attacking Zaraxis vessels. But something was wrong. Her usual fluid movements were jerky, delayed. Her timing was off by fractions of seconds. The quantum disruption field, Cravath's tactical officer reported. It's interfering with her navigation systems. She can't predict movements the way she usually does. On the battlefield, Wraith struggled. For the first time in recorded history, She was taking damage. Energy blasts scorched her shields. Her ship was forced into defensive positions. Dex watched from his command vessel, satisfaction on his face. You see, she's good, but she's not invincible. Continue the pressure. Force her into mistakes. Wraith tried new tactics, but Dex had studied her too well. Every maneuver she attempted, he had prepared countermeasures for. Every escape route was blocked. Every advantage neutralized. For 17 minutes, the battle raged. Wraith took more and more damage. Her shields were failing. Her weapons were depleted. She was surrounded. Billions across the galaxy watched in horror. The legend was dying. The hero was falling. Dex activated Universal Broadcast. Wraith, you've lost. I've proven you're not invincible. Surrender. Remove your helmet. Let the galaxy see the face behind the legend. Or die. The communication channel crackled. Then something unexpected happened. Wraith laughed. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't desperate. It was genuine amusement. You studied my tactics, Wraith said, her voice clear despite the damage to her ship. Smart. You've prepared counters for everything I've done before. Impressive. Really. But you made one critical mistake. What mistake? Dex demanded. You assumed I was alone. The space around the battlefield suddenly filled with quantum signatures. 5 ships appeared, each similar in size to Wraith's vessel, each bearing Earth's military markings, each moving with the same impossible grace. New voices came through the communication channels. Phantom. In position. Reaper ready.
Valkyrie.
Locked on target. Ronin. Awaiting orders. One more voice. Older. With authority. This is Ghost Leader. Sorry we're late, Wraith. Traffic was murder. Wraith's voice carried warmth now. Good timing, Ghost Leader. I was starting to worry. Tide of battle shifted instantly. The 6 ships moved like one organism. They covered each other's weaknesses, set up combination attacks, and communicated in shorthand that spoke of years fighting together. Dex's confusion turned to rage. You called for help? What happened to the lone hero? I never said I worked alone, Wraith replied. I said I was alone when you saw me. Big difference. We're human. We understand pack tactics. Zarax's forces tried to adapt, but they had prepared for one enemy, not 6. The human pilots, they were all human, demonstrated why their species was earning a reputation. They weren't stronger. Their ships weren't better, but they coordinated like they shared one mind. They took risks that terrified other species, and they protected each other with the same dedication they showed to strangers. All units, Dex ordered desperately. Concentrate fire on Wraith. She's the priority target. Every weapon in the Zarax's fleet turned toward Wraith's damaged ship, but her 5 companions immediately formed a protective formation around her, their shields overlapping to create a barrier. We don't abandon pack, Ghost Leader transmitted calmly. You want her? You go through all of us. Vex realized his trap had become his prison. The Mercy Station was saved. The patients were being evacuated, and his fleet was being systematically dismantled by 6 pilots who refused to follow. It's normal combat doctrine. But he had one more card to play. All ships rammed them. If we can't win, we take them with us. The Zarax's fleet turned into missiles, prepared to sacrifice themselves to destroy the human pilots. 20 warships charging at maximum speed towards 6 tiny fighters. Wraith Ghost Leader called. You thinking what I'm thinking? The Kessel maneuver. It's crazy. It's perfect. The 6 human ships suddenly split apart, each going in a different direction. The Zarax's vessels tried to follow, but their momentum was too great. The humans led them on a dance through space, weaving between obstacles, forcing the larger ships to collide with each other. It was insane. It was brilliant. It was very, very human. Part 5. The revelation, the 6 human ships danced through space like leaves in a storm. Every movement was calculated chaos. They led the charging Zarax's vessels on a deadly chase through the debris field left from the earlier battle. Break left on my mark, Wraith called out. Copy that. Reaper Valkyrie. Cross-pattern Alpha. Confirmed. The Xeraxis ships tried to follow, but their larger size and momentum betrayed them. They collided with debris with each other, with orbital structures. The humans never fired a shot. They simply led their enemies to destroy themselves. Within minutes, the Xeraxis fleet was crippled. Not destroyed, the humans still showed restraint but utterly defeated. Dex stared at his screens in disbelief. His perfect trap had failed. His superior numbers meant nothing. These humans had turned his own forces against him, but the battle wasn't over. The Mercy Station was breaking apart. The earlier attacks had damaged its structure too severely. Thousands of evacuated patients floated in escape pods, vulnerable and exposed. Station structural failure imminent, an automated warning broadcast. Complete collapse in 3 minutes. Admiral Cravath's council fleet was still minutes away. Too far to help. The human pilot ships were too small to carry passengers. There was no time for a rescue. Wraith made a decision that would define her legend forever. Ghost Leader, get those escape pods to safety. Negative Wraith. We need 6 ships to cover that many pods against remaining Xeraxis forces. Then you'll have to do it with 5. Silence on the channel. Then Ghost Leader's voice, tight with emotion. What are you planning? The station's reactor. If I can stabilize it for just 2 minutes, you can get everyone clear. After that, ... double quotes. She didn't finish the sentence. That's a suicide mission, Reaper protested. The radiation alone, I know, Wraith said quietly. But it's 3,000 lives against 1. The math is simple. We don't leave Pack behind, Phantom insisted, her voice shaking. That's the rule. We never sometimes, Wraith interrupted gently. The Pack survives because one wolf stands alone. That's the rule too. Get them out, please, Ghost Leader's voice cracked. Sarah, don't do this. For the first time, the galaxy heard her real name. Sarah, not Wraith. Not a legend. A person. You know why I have to? Sarah replied. You were there, Ghost Leader. You know what happened to Alpha Squad? I followed orders instead of doing what was right, and good people died. I won't make that mistake again. Not ever. That wasn't your fault, it was my choice. And this is my choice too. I'm not asking permission. I'm asking you to save those people while I buy you time. Across the galaxy, billions held their breath. They had heard the conversation. They understood what was happening. The hero was about to die. Inside one of the escape pods, little Mira pressed her face against the window. Papa, why is Wraith going toward the station? That's the wrong way. Jarek held his daughter close, tears streaming down his face. He understood. He knew what heroes really cost. Sarah's ship flew toward the dying station, dodging falling debris and radiation bursts. She entered through a breach in the hull and navigated to the reactor core. The radiation readings were lethal. No shields could protect her for long. Reactor core reached, she transmitted. Beginning stabilization. Her hands moved across the controls with desperate speed. The reactor was melting down, its containment fields collapsing. She rerouted power, vented plasma, recalibrated magnetic bottles. It was impossible work. Work that required 3 engineers and proper equipment. Work she was doing alone in a dying ship with radiation cooking her alive. Outside. The other 5 human pilots escorted the escape pods away from the station. They flew in perfect formation, destroying every Xeraxis drone that tried to attack the defenseless civilians. Pods at safe distance in 90 seconds, Reaper reported. Sarah replied. Her voice was weaker now. The radiation was affecting her. I can hold it that long. But the station wasn't cooperating. A secondary explosion rocked the structure. Sarah's ship was thrown against a bulkhead. Alarms screamed. Her shields failed completely. 60 seconds to safe distance, Phantom called out. Sarah status. Still here? Sarah gasped. Blood ran from her nose. Her hands shook as she worked the controls. Still holding? On Vex's damaged command ship, even he watched in silence. His officers stared at their screens. One pilot dying by degrees, holding a reactor together through pure will. Why? Dex whispered. Why would anyone do this? Captain Rhine, now commanding Korthak's ships that had joined the Council forces, answered over the open channel. Because some people understand that life has meaning beyond survival. She's showing us what humanity really means. 30 seconds, Valkyrie reported. Her voice broke. Come on, Sarah. Hold on. Just a little longer. Her body was shutting down. The radiation had penetrated her ship's interior. She was dying, but her hands stayed on the controls, fighting to keep the reactor stable. 10 seconds, Ghost Leader said. Sarah, you beautiful, stubborn, magnificent fool. 10 seconds, and they're clear. Sarah smiled through the pain. 10 seconds. She could do 10 seconds. She had stood alone before. She could stand alone now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Clear. All pods clear. Sarah let go of the controls. Her ship's engines fired one last time, carrying her away from the reactor, but she was too weak to pilot properly, too damaged. The ship tumbled through space, systems failing, then the reactor exploded. The station became a small sun for 3 seconds, consuming everything nearby. The blast wave caught Sarah's ship and threw it into the void. No. Phantom screamed. Sarah. The 5 remaining human pilots turned back, searching frantically. Their sensors swept a debris field. Life sign detectors worked overtime. Nothing. The galaxy watched in grief. Children cried. Adults bowed their heads. Even hardened warriors felt tears on their faces. The hero was gone. Admiral Cravath closed his eyes. She saved them all. Every single one. Then Reaper's voice came through, shaking with hope. Wait, I've got something. Faint life signs bearing 047. The human pilots raced toward the coordinates. There, tumbling through debris, was Sarah's ship. Barely recognizable, shattered, but the cockpit was intact. Ghost. Leader's ship matched velocity and extended a rescue cable. Sarah, if you can hear me, we're here. We've got you. A weak transmission came through. Barely audible. Did they make it? The people, all 3,000, Ghost Leader confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. Every single one. Because of you? Good, Sarah whispered. That's good. Her ship was pulled toward the Council fleet's medical vessel. As it emerged from the debris field, every ship in the System Council, Korthak's, even some Zarax's vessels stopped what they were doing, and then they all did something unprecedented in galactic history. Every ship, regardless of faction, powered down their weapons. It was a sign of respect, a moment of silence for a warrior who had earned it. But Sarah wasn't dead. Barely alive, but not dead. In the medical bay, doctors from 7 species worked desperately to save her. The radiation damage was severe. She should have been dead already. But she held on with the same stubborn determination she showed in everything. 3 days later, she woke up. Her 5 teammates surrounded her bed. They had refused to leave. You're an idiot, Phantom said, crying and laughing at the same time. A magnificent idiot, Reaper added. The best idiot we know, Valkyrie agreed. Sarah smiled weakly. Takes one to know one. Ghost Leader leaned forward. He was older, with gray in his hair and scars on his face. A veteran of Earth's special forces who had trained them all. What you did out there? Sarah, the whole galaxy watched. They know your name now, your face. You can't be anonymous anymore. I know, Sarah said quietly. But that's okay. Maybe it's time for Wraith to be more than a ghost. The door opened. Admiral Cravath entered, followed by Counselor Mira and a dozen other officials. They actually bowed to the woman in the medical bed, Sarah Cravath said formally. The Council wishes to honor you. You've saved countless lives, inspired billions, changed how we see courage and sacrifice. Sarah shook her head. I don't want medals. I just want to keep doing what I do. We know, Counselor Myra said gently. That's why we have a different proposal. She activated a holographic display. It showed a new program, the Wraith Protocol. Training facilities on multiple worlds. Ships being built. Volunteers from dozens of species learning human tactics. You showed us something we forgot, Mira explained. That one person, making the right choice, can matter. We want to spread that lesson. Train others who want to protect the weak, not as soldiers. As guardians, Sarah looked at her teammates. They nodded encouragingly. We wouldn't have to do it alone anymore, Ghost Leader said. We build this together. Create something that lasts beyond any one person. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. On one condition, it's not about me. The program focuses on the principle, not the person. We train people to be their own heroes. Greed Cravath said immediately. Weeks later, at the first Wraith Protocol graduation ceremony, Sarah stood before 300 volunteers from 40 species. She still wore her flight suit with its simple motto, Death Before Dishonor. I'm not special, she told them. I'm just someone who decided that doing the right thing mattered more than being safe. Every one of you can be what I am. Every one of you can stand for those who need standing for. In the crowd, little Mira sat with her father. She wore a small uniform, a junior cadet in training. Her eyes shone with determination. Across the galaxy, the story spread. Not just of Wraith, but of what Wraith represented. Species who had never gotten along started cooperating. Pirates and criminals found themselves facing organized resistance. The weak had protectors, Sarah continued flying, but now she wasn't alone. The callsign Wraith multiplied. Dozens of ships carried it. Hundreds of pilots trained in the philosophy. When darkness came to remote colonies, when evil thought it could act unopposed, when the innocent needed someone to stand for them, Wraith answered. Not one person anymore, but many. All carrying the same message. The strong protect the weak. Honor matters more than power. One person making the right choice can change everything. Years later, in a quiet moment between missions, Sarah's teammate asked her, Do you ever regret it? Giving up anonymity? Becoming the face of the movement? Sarah looked out at the stars. I regret the people I couldn't save. The times I arrived too late, the mistakes I made, but being an inspiration, showing others they can be heroes too, she smiled. That's the best thing I ever did. Her ship's call sign still read Wraith. Her identity was no longer a mystery. But her legend had transformed from one ghost to an army of light, and across the galaxy, enemies still trembled. Not at one pilot's skill, but at what she had awakened in others, the understanding that courage is contagious. That honor is powerful, and that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe is someone who simply refuses to look away. When others need help, the legend of Wraith lived on. Not as mystery, but as a promise, wherever darkness gathers, wherever the vulnerable are threatened, wherever evil thinks it has won, someone will stand. Someone will fight. Someone will be the light, because that's what heroes do. And heroes, it turns out, are very real.